Um, my little story with Larry. In 1981, I was a freshman at Baylor University, and I heard that Larry was going to be performing at University of Oklahoma in Norman. So I hopped in my '68 Bug and I headed up the road to see Larry Norman. I had recently put in a cassette deck, pulled the old 8-track out, gone for the new technology. It was an amazing thing. And I was playing some Sweet Comfort Band. Uh, yeah, I'll admit I tucked in a little bit of old Evie and some Honey Tree, Randy Matthews, definitely Keith Green. I was banging away up the road, headed on off to Norman. And when you're listening to music like that, it just kind of blows by. You know, it didn't take long at all to go 300 miles, even though I was going about 50 miles an hour in my old bug. So I get up there, and the venue's about 750 seats or so. So it's a small, intimate place, and it was general admission. And I was a little bit early. I got on down front and enjoyed a fantastic time of praise and worship and just jamming. It was fantastic. And by the way, he was solo that night. There was no one backing him. It was just Larry, acoustic Larry, jamming Larry, as we all know and love. During the break at intermission, I went out into the foyer and I went out to see what they had to sell. You know, they always hawk their wares at these concerts, and so I've been accustomed to that. And I go out to see what's out there. And the gray-haired, distinguished-looking fellow behind the table turns out to be Larry's dad. He was actually an English professor in the University of California. It was at Berkeley. It could have been at Santa Barbara. I wouldn't swear by it. I don't recall exactly where he was a professor, but he was an English professor, which to me was fascinating. And his dad would go and travel with him when he had opportunity, and he would help him, uh, on the road with everything he needed. Excuse me. And so we got this talking, and he asked me where I was from, and I said, well, I'm from Daytona Beach, Florida, but I'm going to college at Baylor University in Waco. He said, wow, you've come a ways. I said, yeah, it's about 300 miles. He said, fella, you've got to go meet Larry. He would love to hear that. He'd love to know that someone came that far to see him. So, holy cow, I'm thinking, wow, it's Larry Norman, somebody just came 300 miles. To me, there was a time I probably would have gone 3,000 miles if I could have found him somewhere. So I said, well, surely I'll introduce myself when it's over if you think that's okay. And he said, oh, definitely do that. So the rest of the concert was fantastic. It was an amazing, spiritually uplifting time, no question about it. When it was finished, I went down to the side and I was in a line of probably a couple dozen people. We'll come to find out, uh, it was taking a while to get up there to meet Larry. And the reason for that was that Larry was kneeled down on the stage. As each person came, several of them didn't know the Lord. And Larry Norman was making sure that when they left there, they did. He was praying the sinner's prayer with them. I've never seen that. I've been to Amy Grant, Imperials, the Gaithers. I've been to all kind of those concerts. And I've never seen the person that was actually being the vessel at the end of it leading people to the Lord. And there was Larry doing that. And that was inspiring to me. It just felt right. It seemed like that's what people should be doing. And when it was my turn to go up there, I said, I'm a Christian, man. I just wanted to shake your hand and tell you that I love you and that I've appreciated you over the years. And your dad told me to introduce myself to you. And he said, really? He said, where are you from? And I said, well, I'm from Daytona Beach, Florida, but I'm going to college down in Waco, He said, wow, you've come ways. He knew his map. And I said, yeah, it's about 300 miles. He said, well, dude, it's like 9:30, I'm sorry. And what are you going to do? Where are you going to stay? Where are you going to sleep? And I said, well, I was going to just drive on back because I have 10 o'clock class tomorrow. He said, hey, I got an extra bed in the hotel. I know you're hungry. Come on and get some dinner. We're going to go to Denny's or something. And head on back to the hotel, and you can crash there if you want. Now, how could I say no to that? And I waited while Larry led a few more people to the Lord. And we went and had some Denny's. I had, what is that, moons over my hammy or hams over my moony, or I don't know what it's called. But I just listened to the people that were from there, the sponsors and his dad, and there were a couple people connected with his ministry there, and got to ask questions. We talked about Keith Green, and it was an amazing time. And by the time we got back to the hotel, it was time to go to sleep. And I said goodnight, set my little Casio watch. When it went off about 3:30 in the morning, I was up, jumped in the 68 bug and headed back. It's had an enduring, lasting effect on me because I realized that this man who had so much talent, who was so blessed, who was so innovative, and who was so revered by many of his peers that were secular, not to mention his Christian peers, could have had the rock and roll world by the tail. But he chose what he chose. And I just don't see a lot of people doing that. He could have been whatever he wanted to be in that rock and roll world, but he had his eyes on the prize. And so when I heard, after checking in on the website after a couple of months of not checking, I had contributed in the past to his fund for his health, and I had faithfully read what was going on with him. I have to admit it lapsed for a couple of months there. When I checked in that night, on the laptop in bed with my wife, I began to weep. And she said, what's the matter? I said, he's gone. Praise God, he's gone. The rock that doesn't roll has enveloped him with his love, his grace, and he's home. And all I can say is, God bless you, Larry. I can't wait to see you again. And let that tape keep rolling. Let that tape keep rolling.